Welcome to the Divine Soul Journey Evolved podcast, your space for all things awakening, healing, and consciousness shifting. I'm Stephanie Jameson, psychic medium, author, spiritual, and heart-based business mentor, here to help guide you through the incredible, sometimes wild, yet always transformative journey of spiritual evolution. Together, we'll dive deep into thought-provoking conversations, perspective-shifting insights, heart-awakening moments, and reflect on conscious relationship growth. This podcast is designed to be a safe space for awakening and evolving souls, a place to inspire, motivate, encourage, and let's be real, at times may even trigger you into the next version of who it is that you're being invited to become. If you're feeling the call to step into your highest self and embrace the magic of some serious transformation, you're in the right place. Because soul growth and evolution is meant to be beautiful, empowering, and yes, despite how it may feel at times, even fun. So take a deep breath, set the intention to open your heart, and let's dive in. Hi, Peter.
What's happening? How are you?
Good. I'm so excited for you to be on. Welcome. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Yeah, we're going to be talking about the masculine journey today. And I have to tell you, I am so excited to have this conversation with you. Anytime I have a male guest on, I get super excited because we hear from so many females on the awakening path that it's lovely to hear. And I guarantee you, there are going to be women flocking to their phone to listen to this episode. So I can't wait.
Good.
But before we do that, I just want to kind of hand it over to you and who are you? What led you to this moment? Tell us a
Yeah.
little bit about yourself.
Yeah, so I'm Pete Kennedy. I'm a father of five, entrepreneur, just been grinding for a large part of my life. And yeah, I lived in control my whole life, right? I mean, I was just like, I was the master of the universe. Like, if anything was going to happen, it was because I was going to make it happen. And I had this moment with my wife in the jungles of Brazil that just shattered that illusion. And I saw how fear had just taken over my life. And that set me on this beautiful path of transformation. And my wife and I are on this path together. It's amazing. And then I started a company during that time, and I had sold it for massive amounts of money. And when that sale happened, everything I had hoped it would give me, like what I had been working for my entire life, none of it came true. And I fell into a deep depression, which just set me on another amazing journey of transformation, of realizing what is really the meaning of all this, and what are we all really searching for? And and so it's different for everyone, but I think it's the same. It's just self-love and, acceptance of yourself.
Yeah. Wow. Talk
Yeah.
about being forced to kind of be present. I know you and I were talking before, and you went through a pretty big awakening and transformation during COVID, right? Like so many of
Yeah.
us.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
How was that for you?
It was the greatest thing in my life, and it's like the hardest thing. I mean, there's something about, like, when we are stretched beyond our limits, when the world is just, we feel like the world just doesn't love us. And when we feel like, yeah, we're lashing out the world, lashing out our partner, we're on the verge of the most extraordinary, transformation, when we're stretched beyond our limits. And I had the honor of witnessing that transformation in my wife, and it was the most beautiful thing I've ever seen, and I'm so grateful for it. But during COVID, we had five kids, and the schools were closed, and that made my wife become a teacher, and our kids were
Mhm.
like running down the street, like, I'm not going to school today. And one day, my wife woke up and poured herself a screwdriver at like 8 o'clock in the morning, and this is someone who really never drank. And the next day, she poured another one and another one. And pretty soon, it became a pretty bad train wreck. And we have this thing in our marriage. If one of us goes off the rails, the other one can pull the white flag and say, we need to course correct. And I did that. And she went to rehab, didn't work. It helped her a little bit, but not much. And her therapist at the time, who was an addiction specialist, he's an amazing guy, said, I'm not helping you. I think you need to do iboga, which is a plant medicine from Africa. And there's a place in Brazil you can go to. It's crazy, but you'll never drink again. And she was like, will you come with me? And with iboga, you trip for 24 hours. And I had never really done a psychedelic. And I was like, I was deep in control. I was like, I'm not going to do this, but I'm going to come down there to make sure these people don't kill you. And I went down there and had a spiritual experience leading up to the plant medicine journey. And
Mm.
after that, I was like, yeah, I'm doing this. And that just changed my life, set me on this path. Yeah.
Cracked you wide open.
Cracked me
Wow.
wide open. Saw the
I
illusion of
often,
everything. Yeah,
yeah, I mean, yeah, that was the catalyst for you.
that
I
was it.
often tell people, everyone started freaking out. I mean, obviously, COVID was divine intervention, like from a higher perspective. That's how I saw it. And it was so interesting because I had just kind of started, Divine Soul Journey and all of that about a year before that. And my
Mm,
team had been really prepping me energetically, and I didn't realize what I was getting prepped for. And when COVID hit, I booked out months months. I was the exact opposite of what everyone else was experiencing. And everyone was just totally freaking out. And I said, you really need to look at this as the divine intervention is. We're literally being forced to go within,
yeah.
day in. We're being forced to look at relationships that aren't serving our patterns, our careers, our jobs, all the family bullshit. Everything is being forced to
Mhm.
go so that we can have this great reset. And it sounds like you experienced your version of that.
Yeah, I mean, don't you find that in life? I mean, you just described it. There are
Yeah.
times when it's like a course correction of the universe, where
Hmm.
things are just not going in the right direction, and the universe has to intervene, and it needs to
Yeah.
destroy things in order to raise the consciousness of our society. And I mean, it sounds like you had the exact same thing, where you were given this amazing opportunity, and you
Hmm.
didn't shy away from it. You went right at it. I mean, it's so beautiful and amazing that you did that, and look what's come
Oh,
out from that,
it
awakening
didn't come.
of,
Yeah.
yeah.
It didn't come without any pain. It came with lots of
No,
loss and lots of pain and death of the ego over and over again. And,
dude. Let me
just
tell.
coming.
Yeah, let me tell you what. There is a correlation between pain and growth. You can't have one
Uh-huh.
without the other, And so,
Mhm.
yeah, it's like get off the couch, go do it. It's painful, yes. I mean, I always say I talk about things, and I'll get a message on Instagram or something. I'd be like, dude, it's not that easy. I'm like, no, it's not. It is
Mm-mm.
hard, and you have to do it every single day. Transformation takes dedication. You don't become enlightened by meditating last week. I mean, it's hard, and, it's
I
for
have
those
people
who
ask
want
me,
it.
yeah, I have people who ask me all the time. They go, well, when does it end? So when I get through this, and I'm like, welcome to the awakening ascension path. You turn over that first stone, and a whole pile of shit is there for you to look at. New
Yeah.
perspectives, new everything. And what's so interesting, and we're going to get into this now, is I know you work with a lot of men. I've been attracting more men lately. It seems like more men are coming online, and their feminine energy is awakening, their intuition is
Mhm.
awakening. And the title of this podcast is, when numbing stops working. And
Mhm.
it's so interesting. I was reading a guy just the other day. He came to me for a mediumship session. And the whole time I'm reading him, Pink Floyd's Comfortably Numb is playing in my head because I'm very clairaudient. And I had to stop him and I had to pivot the conversation and say, hey, where are you ignoring your intuition? Where are you
Mhm.
dumbing yourself down? And he just lost it. And he just had a complete, I haven't
Mhm.
been true to myself. I'm in a situationship. I'm drinking. I'm doing whatever it is my wife wants me to do because I want to keep the peace. I'm scared to do the work, all
Yeah.
the things. And so we're going to kind
Fear,
of
fear,
dive into
fear.
that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Beautiful.
So he reached a breaking point, which is what I want to
Mhm.
talk to you about. You mentioned many of the men come to you who say, it's just not working anymore. The numbing's not working anymore. Can you kind
Mhm.
of elaborate on that?
Yeah, I mean, listen, you either change for one of two reasons. So you've hit your breaking point, right? And it's just not working anymore. You've hit the same door over and over again, and some event has happened like me, where like my wife falls off the rails, and thank God that happened. Or you just do the work, and it works. Now, I have a lot of people who come to me and they're like, like, what's the plan? And I'm like, I don't know what your plan is, but here's what I do, right? And it's for those who want it, not need it. Because so many people I see, they want to transform, but they don't want to do the work to actually change. They want to
Hmm.
change without having to change. And that
Hmm.
doesn't work. And what I learned is, like I said before, transformation takes dedication. You got to wake up every day and want this and go after it. And when you talk about peeling back those layers, and then there's another layer and another layer, Yeah, that's it. And it almost for me becomes addictive because I'm like, I just want to get down to my core, down to just like almost becoming goo, right? Where my identities are stripped away. And all that's left is pure love because that's frankly that's what the universe is. It's the greatest force in the universe. It's just love. And but our fears and our identities keep us small, contracted, and stuck in these areas. And I think for men especially, they have a hard time tapping into that vulnerability. And that was my problem my whole life. My wife didn't see me cry for the first 20 years of our marriage. I mean, just
Mhm.
never, because I thought it was disgusting if a man did that. So,
I hear a lot of women say that, and I have had men who I absolutely adore in my life who've watched me go through my transformation finally open up and they go, I feel safe with you. I
mm,
can express this, and they finally let 30 years of repressed emotion go. Because they know I'm not going to judge them because I'm not a wounded feminine. I'm
yeah.
somebody who's worked on herself. And I
Mhm.
understand that you have to have both. We have feminine and masculine energy within us. And until we find that balance, we're going to be swinging like
Yes.
crazy.
And I feel like the masculine energy, I hate the word toxic masculinity. I don't like that. And because it makes you feel bad for being a man. The reality is that we're conditioned in our society. That's just who we are. I mean, you're talking about 1,000 years of conditioning to be where we are
Hmm.
today. And what we've lost, and I would even argue that women have lost a lot of the divine feminine. I mean,
Hmm.
it's
Hmm.
become this kind of masculine energy society. And so whenever I see divine feminine retreats, I'm like, oh yeah, it's just tapping back into that source that's already there. And for men, I mean, it's intuition. That's what the divine feminine is for me. It's just tuning
Yeah.
into that intuition, that love, that vulnerability. It's everyone needs it. There's no men and women. There's divine feminine, divine masculine, and we should have both in us, and yeah, but we've
Oh,
lost
I
that.
feel like I could talk to you forever, Peter. I just love this. This is something that I actually teach in my 90-day alignment course because I have a lot of women who come to me who are very headstrong and they've
Hmm.
been taught to suppress their feminine, and they either end up in very toxic codependent relationships where they've attracted a very feminine man, or it's the opposite. I have a man come to me and it's, the opposite story. And we talk about how it's like, your head and your heart, sacred masculine, sacred feminine, they have to learn
Hmm.
to work together within first. If they don't, that's going to manifest in every relationship outwards. So
Yes.
until you come into sacred union from within, you cannot possibly manifest a sacred union without. It doesn't happen.
No, your external world is simply a mirror for your internal state. Doesn't matter
Mhm.
what that is. So if I am just like only masculine, toxic, whatever it is,
Mhm.
I, I'm going to attract whatever that is, right? And so I either attract something that's completely opposite of me, or I attract something that is that. And you know, I found in any relationship, you need to find your opposite because that is
Mhm.
your greatest life lessons live within that person. And if you're just seeing your own self in the other person all the time, I mean, how do you see your life lessons? Because you're just looking at you and you're like, oh, we're so happy because we both do the same thing. Yeah, it's the opposite of that. You need to find that complete opposite who drives you crazy because that's where your lessons are. So yeah.
That's your mirror.
That's that
Hmm.
is that is your mirror. That is what relationships are. We were kind of jumping around a little bit, but I always look at like the dharma of your relationship, the dharma, the spiritual purpose woven in your bond. You know, it's it's
Mm.
it's the work of walking each other home, back to truth, back to wholeness, back to the love that existed before you two had names. That's the work. That's why your souls brought you two together for. It's
I'm going to take a moment here just to say to all the ladies listening who constantly doubt me that there are men out there who think like this. I'm just going to point out that there's a man right here visually who's literally thinking like this, and because I hear it so much, like, no men are doing the work, and that is a lesson for women who are awakening in themselves, who keep attracting toxic situations that they resonate with. It's like, no, you're attracting that energy because that's some part of you resonates with that particular energy. And
yeah.
so, yeah.
But also like, well, why are you attracting that person? Well, there's a
Right.
reason your life lessons are buried in there. If you're like, oh, this
Hmm.
person just doesn't give me what they want, they're not doing the work. Ugh. Dude,
Hmm.
look at yourself, hold the mirror up to yourself and understand like why is that? It's not them. They're not doing anything. They're just going through life, you know? And
And are
yeah.
you, as a woman, allowing yourself to even receive? I got
Mm,
to work with this. I had this beautiful experience a few years ago up in Boise, Idaho. And I got to work with this panel of men. And one of the cool things was it was a whole group full of women, and you got to ask very secretly a question. And so I just went, what's the sexiest thing you find about a woman? All of these men said her ability and willingness to receive.
mm,
And all of our jaws actually dropped because there was so many epiphanies in the room around, you know, well, men, we want men to give to us, but do you, when he gives you a compliment, do you say thank you or do you critique
mm.
or do you downplay the compliment? Do you critique the way he does something when he's just trying to do something for you? And so that was a huge epiphany for all the women in the room,
Yes.
all the women.
Listen, there's one truth in this world. You have no idea what's going through my mind right now. And I have no
Mm-hmm.
idea what's going through your mind. It's a
Mm-hmm.
complete and utter mystery. Even if I understood what was going through your mind right now, I wouldn't understand it because I am not you. I
Mm-hmm.
can't understand how a butterfly lives. I'm not a butterfly. And so
Right.
if I'm trying to understand you and use your language, it's almost impossible. And so that's part of this process of just like really understanding that the terms that we use. You and I could say the exact same thing and we mean the exact same, exact opposite, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and I think a lot of challenges in relationships happen because of that. Just we think differently. I think differently than the guy next to me. You think differently than the girl next to you. We think completely differently. And
Yeah.
but that's the beauty of like trying to really understand each other and trying to speak their language in a way that they understand, and then keep asking the questions. And this is the most one of the things I'm so into right now. I love this is how the brain works. So our brain is this beautiful machine that tries to fill in gaps. So we see something, we hear a story, and we have a couple facts, but then we have this huge lake of just unknowns. And our mind is so smart and so brilliant, it starts filling in the holes. And it creates this story based off of what you've said or what I'm seeing. None of it might be true. Yet our brain, since we've filled those gaps, we think it's true. And so we think it's truth. And I think where couples fall into these patterns of not asking more and more and more questions because we let our brain
Mm.
fill in these gaps, and that's part of what my wife and I do is it's just like question it. I could say like I did this yesterday. I said she was kind of working on something with our new house and she was kind of distant. And I was like, hey, I just want to check in with you. Are you doing okay? You feel a little distant to me, but I just want to just check in. How are you feeling? What's your energy? And she took that as, um, are you done with the house stuff yet? That was not my thing, but she translated that into criticism, and that wasn't it. And so it was her by asking me that question, like, are you saying this? I'm like, no, I'm not saying that. I'm just checking in on you. And so yeah, it's just
But
constant.
that willingness, that conscious willingness to be able to communicate and find a like vibration to even say, no, 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 before, is amazing. There's a lot of
Mhm.
couples who don't do that. They just go into robot mode or they numb. And you talk a lot about how when numbing stops numbing, that's when the real transformation occurs.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
When
How did
when
that
numbing,
happen for you?
well, it happened inside of Temescal, right? So the sweat lodge, and we were down in Brazil. My wife was there to get off alcohol, stop drinking, and we were at the end of the week. We were doing this plant medicine called iboga, which is just it's called the Stern Father. Like it basically tells you where are you messing up in your life and what do you need to change, and you have to do all this preparation in order to be ready to do that because it's 24 hours. And we did it to Temescal, and this was a hot one. Like when I'm saying hot, it was like we had built this in the jungle. We were sweating. It lost so much water. It was totally unsafe to even start. And then we went in there, and there's 20 of us packed shoulder to shoulders, knees to back in an inferno. And I hit my breaking point, and I left the Temescal in my mind. I don't know what happened, But I was sitting there in this open field, no longer felt hot, and I saw this Native American walking on a horse. And he walked up to me and he said, "Fear is worse than death, and that is why I fear no death." And at that moment, my entire world shattered. And I saw how fear ran my entire life, everything. And and then I sat in that Temescal for another, like, I don't know, hour. People had already left. Someone had the foresight to come in and drag me out of there. And they're like, "What the hell's wrong with you?" And then we go into the main building, and the shaman, who's like this spiritual genius. I mean, he could see through you, and you would talk about your experience, and he would give you insights that only you would even understand, or you don't even understand yet. And everyone's talking about their experience. I tried to explain my experience. I'm bawling in front of a crowd of people, in front of my wife for the first time in my life. She'd never seen me cry. And I'm just unraveling. And he looked at me and he just nodded and then went to the next person. And I was like, what the hell? I had just bared my soul, like cried in front of
Mm.
my wife for the first time, and I get nothing. And then he walked up to me as soon as the ceremony ended, and he looked at me, put his hands on my shoulder, and he said, "When was your birthday?" I told him. He said, "I too was born on that day. We can see outside the matrix." And then he said, "You need to learn to surrender and release control." And then I just start crying again. I mean, it
Mm.
was the truth in that hit me like a bullet. And then from then it was just like that's my whole thing is surrender, learning to
Mm.
surrender,
And it comes in
yeah.
different layers and different levels. You're like, oh, here it is again, here it is again, here it is again. It's pretty wild. That brings me to, when you and I first met, we talked a little bit about anger and how
Mhm.
important of an emotion anger is. And there's so many of us, myself included, we were taught to suppress anger. And I
Mhm.
learned throughout my journey that anger is the inner child trying to take their power back, and often the emotion that shows us where our boundaries have been violated.
Mhm.
And so
Yeah.
the second I allowed myself to feel every emotion, that's when new levels of consciousness just opened right up. And I stopped feeling guilty for, we're a spectrum. We're meant to experience all of the emotions. And
Mhm.
so many men and so many women have shut it down. And that comes from, like you said, thousands of years of conditioning, family patterns, generational trauma, all that. But I find, of course, women naturally tend to open themselves up a little bit more depending on the trauma. Men tend to take a little bit longer, especially when it
Yeah.
comes to opening up and expressing anger. So you've spoken about the importance of alchemizing anger. Can you touch on
Yeah.
that a little bit more?
Yeah, I mean, anger, first of all, was like my go-to, right? Because underneath every anger, every, angry moment in your life, there's a vulnerable side of you that's protecting. And for men,
Mhm.
especially, it's hard to access that vulnerability. I couldn't cry in front of my wife. I mean, like literally, if there was a moment when I should have cried, an energy came in and shut it down, and I literally felt nothing. It wasn't like I was a choice. It was just I felt nothing. I couldn't access it. And I would use anger instead. So part of that process is what is the underlying vulnerability that anger is hiding? Okay. But even when we were growing up, you mentioned this. I mean, oh, don't be mad. Oh, come on, do what everyone else wants you to do. Like you're taught that anger is a bad thing, and what I've learned is that anger is a divine gift from the universe. What is it? It's
Mhm.
telling you that there's something hidden below and look deeper. Now, what a lot of people do is they live in that anger and they live in that resentment, and they could be in there for 20 some years, because it doesn't alchemize into anything. It metastasizes. And what I learned is that when I get angry, thank you for letting me get angry. Like that's a sign. It's a street post saying like pay attention. And I could be like my wife, for example. She does something and I'll get angry at her. And we'll allow each other to get angry with them. Yeah, blame me, I know, my fault, whatever. But at some point, you turn the cards around, you pick up the mirror and you look at yourself and it's like, okay, what is that trying? Why am I getting angry? Oh, I'm seeking external validation and you're not giving it to me, or whatever it is. You realize that the anger is just a sign saying point deeper. And then when you finally look deeper, then you're like, oh my God, that's the that's what I was trying to learn there. I'm still seeking external validation. And then I have so much love for this person. that they gave me the gift to be able to turn the mirror on myself and see what my life lesson is. So that's the alchemy of anger. It's taking this divine emotion and then turning it into pure love for her and myself, and that's every time I get angry, I'm just like, all right, I know that there's a message here, but my ego's like, I'll just be pissed for a little longer. I'm like, okay, I will. And then pretty soon, maybe 24 hours later, I pick up the mirror and I'm like, okay, what's the truth here?
Yeah, you see the trigger for what it is.
Yeah, because no one's doing anything to you. Literally. I mean, everyone's just doing their problem. They're just playing out their own trauma and their own, whatever childhood conditioning. Well, so are you. And so the question
Hmm.
is, what is your problem? And,
Hmm.
it's, yeah, my wife and I, we spend a lot of time with our triggers and our identities. Not in a weird way. It's just when we get in an argument, which is great. You should get in an argument. I'm triggered, she's triggered, right? And there are moments where we're smart enough and one of us raises the white flag and we say, "Okay, can we go in the bathroom real quick?" And we go in the bathroom and we leave those triggers behind. We leave because those two aren't, it's not Pete and Brooks arguing. It's these two idiots who have been triggered. It's like, and so we go in the bathroom and she'll be like, okay, what are they talking? What's he mad about? I'm like, he's pissed at you because he thinks blah, blah, blah. So we're talking about these two idiots as third party, third party people. And then we can have the conversation. Then we go back in there and we continue. But it's just getting those triggers out of it. It's called voice dialogue. It's so useful. So yeah.
You've been moved through the experience of being able to express your emotions in a safe way. And most of the men who I meet are just starting to realize that that's even a thing, that they need to learn how to express themselves
Yeah.
in a safe way. How did you kind of begin to move through your own suppressed emotions?
Mhm.
And now you're guiding others to do the same. I know your book plays a big role in that
Mhm.
as well.
Yeah. So for any woman who's listening to this, it's not that men can't, you know, express emotion. They don't know what those things are. I mean, I didn't even know what these emotions are. I felt this way, and
Hmm.
I just didn't know what it meant. And for my
Hmm.
wife, who's like lives in emotion, she's like, why can't you understand that? Because it's not just one emotion that I'm feeling. I'm feeling a million different things. And it wasn't until I really started practicing somatic therapy, getting out of my mind and into my body, that I was able to really just digest and feel and know what that thing was trying to tell me. And so what I do with this amazing therapist, Conchetta, who's in the book, you know, 45 minutes, eyes closed, we are deep in my body, and I'm just feeling around for areas of discomfort and tension, and I go in there and I talk to it. I'm like, okay, well, what do you need? What do you, and it speaks back to me. And
Hmm.
what I thought it might be, because my ego is telling me, the ego is like pointing me, oh, it's over here. But once you kind of get rid of the ego, you get really still, really quiet, and you go down there. Then the trauma, whatever it is speaking to you, and you can start to understand that. But it takes work. It takes a professional. It takes someone like you to help them through that process because it's a language that most men have a hard time speaking. It's like another language.
Yes, somatic work is a part of what I do, and
Mhm.
it's transformational when I just simply take a man through guided meditation, and then we start to lean into the body, and they realize that there is a unhealed wound from when they were 15 years old stuck in their shoulder, or that the reason their lower back hurts the way that it does is because they're terrified of money or they're terrified of losing something or it goes so deep. And I actually just had a massage craniosacral therapist on, and I was telling her a few years now I'll be on the massage table. I've got some stuff from childhood, some wounds, and I have to do Thai massage. It's a non-negotiable for me to even be able to move my neck and my back and my muscles combined with somatic therapy. Okay, true wounded healer here. All right.
Yeah.
And so when I'm on the massage table, there are memories that pop up sometimes that I haven't thought of for 20 years,
Mhm.
25 years, 16 years, 18 years, whatever. Boom. Oh, hip is killing me.
Mhm.
Wow, there it is. And I have to do my somatic work to breathe through it and literally see it going and being willing to release it even.
Yeah. It takes
didn't
courage.
acknowledging it. It takes so much work to
Mhm.
face that. So I love that you mentioned breath work and somatic work and all of that. It's
Yeah,
so cool.
and you described that so beautifully, just like how your body stores trauma. It just does. I mean, and we push it down and we place it places, and you just so beautifully explained how that works and how you release that. And I had a really powerful psilocybin ceremony. Eye mask on, and it's listening to music for 5 hours and guided by somebody who's just a true shaman. She's amazing. And it was a very somatic experience. I was
Mhm.
purging during the entire stuff. Like the first purge was just yawning, couldn't stop yawning. And then I had these ab
Mhm.
contractions where it was like literally my body was lifted off the ground, and she said it looked like an exorcism. And what it was my body releasing. It was all around my solar plexus, right? So your area of control and
Mhm.
power. And it was just releasing that. And then at that point, there's this part of me that I identified through internal family systems therapy, which is understanding your parts of you. And there's this part of me called the man. And every dude in the world has this. And the man is the one who drives you and controls you and tells you that, listen, you're only lovable if you succeed, and emotion is weak, and vulnerability is disgusting. And that's protecting this little boy who's this vulnerable little kid that, was me as a little kid. And I had just abandoned him. And that dude took over my life, the man. And so it was this beautiful ceremony where once I had released the control and the power in my solar plexus, the man came in and the boy came in. We just laid there side by side and just went through every memory of our life. And it was an amazing experience. And just the amount, I think, trauma and pain that we had released during that, it was remarkable. So,
I
yeah.
love that. I do something similar where I teach people, how to drop into their heart wisdom within 60 seconds. And I ask
Whoa.
them which now. Yep, yep, yep. It's a
Yeah.
very powerful exercise. And I walk them kind of through it at first, and then I teach them this is how you can do it in 60 seconds after. And one of the things that always shows up is I guide them to their inner child, and their inner child always shows up at different ages. So he may turn up at 16, he may turn up at 18, he may turn up at 3, and
Mhm.
there's always something. This is the next step. You got to get through this hump to get here, or this is what's holding you back, or this is the way to go. And once you establish this really solid relationship and you start going from this moment forward, it's about me and you, everything shifts. Everything changes. The intuition gets stronger. They're less controlled by the mind. They allow their heart, they go through feel first, then act versus the other way. And
Mhm.
it's powerful. And I've had so many men. I started out doing like Reiki healing and energy work years ago on the table, and they are just like, I forgot about him. I abandoned him because I was taught that that's what I needed to do.
Mhm. Yeah, to
Mhm.
survive. I mean,
Yeah.
first of all, I love it. The heart is the soul of the person. Like it's how you access everything. And we're doing that, by the way. You need to teach me the 60-second, heart opening
Oh my gosh,
connection.
I'll
I
totally
gotta do
teach
it.
you the which
Yeah,
way now. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, absolutely.
yeah,
It takes a couple minutes to get into it. And then from that moment forward, once you know how to do it, 60 seconds. But yeah, we can do it before we get off.
dude. I love it.
Let's move through this last question here I have set up for
Uh-huh.
you. You're in a super conscious marriage, so inspiring. Most of the time when I meet people, they are going through their awakening. One spouse or one person in the connection tends to awaken before the other one, or there's
Mhm.
a catalytic type of an awakening that happens and it triggers. You either grow together or you grow separately. Karmic contracts complete. You've had the kids, you've done the thing, all the whatever. You're either going to grow together or you're not. And, learning to surrender and letting go of control, that's a lifelong process. That is not something that you just do. But how does that show up in your connection now? And, we talked a little bit about how relationships serve for a deeper purpose and they're our ultimate
Mhm.
mirror. But, considering who you two were 4 years ago to today, what's been the biggest transformation?
Yes, and by the way, this is not how we've always been. Like
Oh,
we
no,
weren't
of
always this
course.
conscious couple who was like,
No.
doing, but it's a point of saying that though is that regardless of where you are in your relationship, right? And I'm talking to the audience who's listening to this, dude, it can change instantly. I mean, there was a year where my wife and I were very separate. I mean, we had 5 kids, we were living together. It was all we were physically together, but we weren't together, right? And so things can change in a heartbeat, right? I also hear about people who say, listen, I'm growing, but my husband's not. And so, I mean, it's impossible, right? No, it's not impossible. Okay.
Mhm.
This is not my words. This is someone else's words, but it's so true. Listen, there's love and there's attachment. Okay. When you're saying, I need this person to be this way in order for me to be happy and in our relationship, basically what you're saying is, I can only be happy if they're this way. And you're putting rules around the love. It's conditional. I'll love you if you do this. That's not love. That's attachment.
Mhm.
That's need.
Yes.
Yes. And so, listen, my wife and I always say this. You don't make me happy and you don't make me sad. You don't have that much power. I make myself happy. And the minute I turn to you, and this happens all the time in relationships, right? And it happens to me on a often where I look at my wife and I'm like, oh, I need you to make me happy or make me feel comfortable or whatever. The minute I hear that in my head, I'm like, oh yeah, I'm off on the wrong path because she's
Mhm.
not going to give that to me. That's not her job. My job is to love her unconditionally. And the minute I have conditions, then it's not love, it's attachment. So,
That answers the question right there, is that you guys are in a love-based relationship. You're not in a fear-based relationship, which is all robotic and together for practical purposes. You're literally best friends and you're together because there's real love.
yes, and take ownership of that, you know?
Mhm.
And I did this really cool heart opening meditation. And this is a little while ago. And, I'm really trying to like pick apart every part of my life. And, there's still attachment there. I still look at her and say, I want this out of you. And during this heart opening meditation, that little child that you're talking about came and I just saw him in front of me. And he represented the part of me that is attached and that needs someone to make me feel better. And I had this beautiful experience where I was just like, dude, I love you, but it's gone. We're not going to do that anymore. And listen, I'm not getting rid of you. You just sit on the beach, man. Come back into this. It's fun over here. You don't have to, but we're not going to do that anymore. And and it's an old friend, that attachment, the jealousy, whatever it is. And it's sad to see that go, and I let it mourn. And then it's like, all right, brother, let's go. We're not going to
Mhm.
do this anymore. And yeah, it was cool. So that's I think that's part of what people need to do a little bit, It's just acknowledge it, take full responsibility. You're the one doing this, and then just, keep it or don't keep it. It's up to you.
Mhm. So important too that you mentioned that there was a little bit of grief involved and you allowed yourself to grieve it. Even though it was a positive change, there was still a little bit of grief, especially when it comes
It-
to releasing identities that we've held on to for so long.
I mean, it's an old friend. I've been with me
Yeah.
for 50 years. Like, I mean, yes,
Hmm.
it's all I know, and so
Hmm.
yeah, it's sad to see it go, so but then once it's you've let go of it, I'm sure it will come back a little bit, and oh, hello, there you are again. Okay, we're done with you, but and so it's not about being
Yeah.
perfect. um but then, man, it's like, oh, you are unlimited. You can do anything. Nothing's
Hmm.
holding you back. No one's going to determine whether you're happy or sad or anything. It's up to you. So
Yeah, because you've opened your heart. Big
yeah.
difference there vibrationally. Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Well, we're at the part where I would say, if there's something you want to teach, but if you want me to teach the Which Way Now exercise,
Yes.
I
Will you?
definitely
Okay.
can.
Amazing.
Absolutely. I
Okay.
love teaching this to people. So, what you're going to do is just go ahead and place your hand on your heart. You're just going to take a nice deep breath in, close your eyes. And this can work for men or women. I teach this at, all kinds of events. So you're just going to breathe in, and I want you to just slowly breathe in some golden white light. And we're going to do this 3 or 4 times. And then on your next inhale, you're just going to imagine yourself walking around in nature somewhere barefoot, nice and grounded, really soaking up that energy. There's nothing you have to be doing right now. You're just breathing in and out through your heart space, taking note of any colors, shapes, animals, scenery that stands out to you, which we'll talk about in a moment. And I want you to give yourself permission to explore. Peek behind the bushes, walk down a path. Just allow yourself to explore. Breathing in and out through that heart space, no manipulation of breath. And as you are allowing yourself this opportunity to look around, you're going to come across a place that feels comfortable to sit. Go ahead and do that when that feels right, keeping your feet firmly planted on the ground. And as you're sitting there, just breathing in and out through your heart space, really owning that this vibration is your true essence. This is the space where we manifest from, where we receive our intuitive downloads, when we're in this calm, flow state. You're going to start to notice that there's an energy that's very familiar that comes up either from behind you, to the sides of you, possibly in front of you. And I want you to go ahead and let this energy know that it's safe to do so. And you're going to start to notice that this is a younger version of yourself. It's important to take note of his age or her age if you're listening. And I want you to just allow them to come in. And if it's been a while since you've ignored them or you have paid attention to them, or it's been a while since you've connected with them, just say hello. I see you. Looking at them in the eyes, all you have to simply say is that from this moment forward, it's about me and you. I got you. I promise to start consulting you first before any small or major decision. And then just simply ask, which way now? And pay attention to whatever they do, say, impress, song lyrics, animals, directions. And as they provide you with some clarity, encourage them to go do something fun, to go play, to go do something creative, whatever is a stress relief. Go do it. And as they go and do that, come back to your heart center and remember that this is your meeting space. And at any moment during the day when you just need to know which way now, this is where you're going to meet them, putting your hand on your heart, which way now? Go ahead and take 3 or 4 more deep breaths. And then when you're ready, go ahead and open your eyes. No rush. Okay, there's some
Yeah, it
really
was
cool
good.
insight. Good. I'm
Yeah,
glad that
me
you
too.
enjoyed that. That's a fun
Yeah.
one. I've done that to multiple men in my life, and they absolutely are shocked and blown away. I'm going to show you how psychic and intuitive you are as well, because we all
Okay.
are. And the more we choose love over fear, the stronger our psychic abilities become. Okay.
Hmm.
So, where were you, if you don't mind sharing?
Totally. I'm an open book. I was in this beautiful field and it was like wildflowers everywhere and there were like mountains around me, but this field was just like untouched and just, yeah, beautiful. Yeah, like
Okay.
blue skies and yeah, it was amazing.
Okay. So, I was just going to ask you, were there any colors specifically that stood out to you?
Yeah, the green of the grass, the reds and purples of the flowers, and then the blue sky.
Okay. So
Mhm.
that would usually represent the chakras that are either being worked on, need to be worked on, or getting ready to be worked on.
Okay.
Okay. So blue, obviously throat chakra. We know that you're on podcast and you're out speaking your truth and you're out
Mhm.
promoting your new book. standing in the true essence of, what you feel like you're here to do. Keep doing that. The purple would be trusting your intuition, your third eye, letting that guide you towards, who and what feels right. The red would be don't worry so much about stability, structure. Mountains
Hmm.
represent you are supported. And I know that you've recently gone through something very crazy over in
Hmm.
Cali. And so totally normal for that to be experienced. And then there was another color. What other one was it?
Green was
Green would
the,
be the heart chakra, opening
yeah.
up, speaking your truth, living in alignment with the vibration of love, all of that good stuff. Okay. So mountains specifically have a lot to do with structure and feeling grounded. So if you haven't been in a space of feeling as grounded lately, it's your team's way of saying, you got this, we got you. Just breathe and stay focused. Okay. So this is, I teach at my retreats, I teach the language of spirit, and so this would be their
Hmm.
clairvoyant way of getting through to you, because you're in that relaxed space. So just like when you're meditating, you see things, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay,
So
yeah.
go
Okay, keep
ahead.
going. No, I was just gonna say because once the boy arrived and I just like laid in the grass and just
Yeah.
like felt so safe and just so relaxed and
There you go. Yeah.
yeah, and the
Yeah.
structure around me with the mountains, yeah,
Yeah.
beautiful.
How old was he?
He was about 8 years old.
8. Okay. So this
Mm-hmm.
would be your team's way of saying there's something either happened or we need to get back to that version of him.
Mm-hmm.
That's the next step, you know, before wounding, before society told you who to be or what to be and all that good stuff. So moving forward from this spot, you've now created a space where it's just you and him. And when things just feel a little chaotic, you can now just go, which way now? And boom, he'll show up and he'll show up and things will pop into your third eye symbolically. And it's important for you to look those things up if you don't know what they mean.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah, and I mean, his message was just like love, like it's just all love.
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah.
he's like, path was so clear, how I need to approach life and how I need to be. Everything is love. And then
Yep.
he got up and just like started running and just like doing cartwheels and just taking off. And, it's just
Having
like,
fun.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah,
it's
I
awesome.
love that. So
So,
there's so many different things you can do with that, and I encourage everyone to just check in which way now every day. Small little
yeah,
thing. What do I need? You know what? I need some water. I need to go for a walk. I need to go
I
for a
love it.
swim.
It's
Hmm.
beautiful. Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you. Dude,
Yeah, you're
I'm always
welcome.
I'm always looking for tools in my toolkit. It's like,
Yeah, of course.
yeah, constantly. So thank you. That was a cool experience.
Yeah.
So.
Before I let you go, we are definitely out of time here. Where can we find your book? What's the book called? We didn't even get into that. I'm so sorry.
Sorry, it's called The Remembering: A Journey Back to Self. And
Yeah.
my website's called Evolve Weird because, listen, when you look back and you're like, how did I get here? You're always like, that's so weird. Like, what the how did that happen and that happen? It's just so weird. And so,
Yeah.
yeah, it's called Evolve Weird. And you can buy the book on Amazon. I have an audiobook, all the different formats. So, yeah.
I love that. I can't tell you how many times when I was going through my initial awakening, I probably said, that's so weird, thousands of times. This is so weird. Or you go to your friends and you go, no, I'm seeing this angel number. It's so weird.
Well, I designed the book cover, and originally the book was called Evolve Weird, and it had this like hilarious, not hilarious, but this really cool transformation, this like little ball going into this beautiful butterfly or bird, and it was the progress of how you evolve like that. And my wife was like, "It's evolve weird. Weird is too weird. I can't do it." And I was like, "Okay, well, what would you do?" And she's like, "Dude, it's the remembering. You're just remembering your true essence, who you are." And I was like, "Oh
Yes.
my God, that's it." And so.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's exactly
Otherwise, it
it.
Evolve Weird would have been too much. But I kept the website. I was like, I'm keeping the website. So
Heck yeah. That could be
yeah,
something else later on down the way.
yeah. Who knows?
All right. Well,
Who
thank
knows?
you so much, Peter. It was an honor. I really appreciate you coming on, and I know everyone's going to love this.
All right. Well, thanks for the time. Appreciate it.
Yeah. Thank you for joining us on Divine Soul Journey Evolved. I'm truly grateful to share this space with you. If you'd like to dive deeper, please visit divinesouljourney.net to check out private readings, courses, mastermind workshops, and so much more. Also, just a reminder to check out the links below for any free gifts mentioned during this program that are available to you as you grow through your next level up. Until next time, keep honoring the illogical magic unfolding before you. Trust in your perfectly designed evolution, and remember that you are being divinely guided always.